"You've seen too much," the Apache girl warned. "Now you must marry me or we're both punished." Ethan had always been drawn to stories that most people overlooked. As a young anthropologist, he spent his life chasing knowledge about cultures that were disappearing or hidden from the modern world. He was fascinated by traditions, rituals, and the way communities passed their wisdom from one generation to another. That curiosity had led him to the southwestern plains, where he hoped to study the Apache people, whose history and customs were rich but often kept private. Ethan had read countless books and articles about their way of life, but he knew that no text could ever capture the feeling of being there, in the middle of their land, where the wind carried secrets of the past. He had traveled for days through narrow dirt paths, guided only by old maps, the stars at night, and the occasional advice of local villagers. The sun burned bright during the day, casting long shadows over the rolling desert hills, and at night, the sky exploded with stars so clear that Ethan felt like he could almost touch them. It was beautiful, but it was also a place where one had to move carefully. This was not just wilderness. It was home to a proud people with traditions that outsiders were not meant to see. Ethan understood that, but his excitement and determination pushed him forward. On his third day in the region, while exploring a secluded canyon, he noticed a narrow path leading to a small clearing. Curiosity nudged him forward. He moved quietly, careful not to step on dry leaves that could betray his presence. As he approached, he realized the clearing was not empty. In the middle, a small group of people were gathered in a circle, dressed in traditional clothing. There was singing, soft and melodic, and Ethan could see small fires flickering in the center. The air was filled with the scent of sage and sweet grass, and the rhythmic beating of drums made the ground beneath him feel alive. Ethan froze. He knew immediately that he had stumbled upon something sacred, something that was never meant for outsiders to witness. His heart pounded in his chest. Every instinct told him to turn around, to leave quietly and pretend he had never been there. But at the same time, he could not tear his eyes away. This was history happening in front of him, a living tradition that had survived centuries. He crouched behind a large rock, hoping that no one would notice him. Among the people gathered was a young woman who immediately caught his attention. She moved gracefully, her every motion deliberate and meaningful. Her eyes were sharp and aware, and even from a distance, Ethan felt that she seemed to notice him before anyone else. Her name, as he would later learn, was Ahiana. She was young, perhaps in her early 20s, yet there was a confidence in the way she carried herself that suggested both wisdom and responsibility. Suddenly, the ceremony paused for a moment, and Ethan realized with a jolt that Ahiana was staring directly at him. She had seen him hiding, and there was no mistaking it. Fear and panic rushed through him. He had not wanted to be discovered, but now it was clear that he had. Slowly, he stood up, raising his hand slightly to show he meant no harm. Ahiana approached cautiously, her eyes never leaving his. Her voice was calm but firm when she spoke. "You have seen too much," she said quietly. "Now you must understand that this is dangerous. What you have witnessed is private, sacred. If others learn that an outsider has been here, both you and my people could face consequences." Ethan swallowed hard, realizing the gravity of the situation. He had read about rituals and the importance of secrecy, but now he was living it. His mind raced with questions. What kind of consequences? What would happen to her if he had been discovered? Could he be punished just for looking? Ahiana studied him carefully, as if weighing his intentions. "You cannot simply leave," she continued. "There must be a way to protect both of us. There are rules, old rules, that we must follow. You will not understand them fully yet, but you must trust me. If we do not act, there will be trouble." Ethan felt a mixture of fear and fascination. He nodded slowly, trying to show that he understood, though in truth he barely did. Ahiana gestured for him to follow her away from the main clearing, and they moved quietly among the rocks and shadows. Once they were at a safe distance, she finally spoke at length. In our community, certain ceremonies are private, reserved only for those who belong, she explained. If an outsider witnesses them, it is as if a secret has been broken. There is a tradition, very old, that protects both the one who saw and the one who was seen. It is unusual, but it has kept our people safe for generations. Because you have seen this, there is now a bond between us. We must honor it, or both of us could face trouble. Ethan listened, trying to absorb every word. He could see that she was serious, that this was not a game or a threat. Her expression was calm, but her eyes revealed the weight of responsibility she carried. "What kind of bond?" he asked quietly. Ahiana hesitated, then said, "There is a ritual engagement, a form of marriage. Not one based on love, not yet, but on duty. It is meant to protect both of us. If we follow it, we are safe. If we do not, others may not understand, and both our lives could be made difficult." Ethan's mind spun. Marriage? Engagement. He had never imagined that witnessing a ceremony could lead to anything like this. But as he looked at Ahiana, he realized she was not exaggerating. The pride and seriousness in her eyes left no room for doubt. She was offering a solution, a way to protect both of them. He thought about turning back, running away to safety, but something in him stopped. This was more than a personal choice. It was a matter of respect and trust. He could see that she was not trying to trap him, but rather to follow her people's rules while giving him a chance to do the same. I don't fully understand," Ethan admitted, "but I trust you. I want to do what's right." Ahiana's expression softened slightly, though her eyes remained watchful. "You will learn," she said. "This is not about love. It is about survival, honor, and respect. You must follow my guidance. We will move carefully, quietly, and with purpose. One wrong step could cause problems." As they began walking back toward the edge of the clearing, Ethan noticed the quiet strength in Ahiana. She moved with confidence, yet every gesture was measured. He could tell she had been trained since childhood to carry the weight of responsibility. He realized that he had stumbled into a world that demanded respect, and he felt both humbled and awed. For the next few hours, they moved through the desert, talking in whispers. Ahiana taught Ethan about the land, the plants, and the history of her people. She told him stories that had been passed down for generations, stories of ancestors, of survival, of wisdom hidden in the songs and dances he had witnessed. Ethan listened intently, scribbling notes in his notebook when he could, though he was careful not to write anything that could reveal secrets to the wrong eyes. As night fell, the desert transformed. The temperature dropped, the wind carried a chill, and the stars shone even brighter. Ethan felt a sense of calm in the midst of fear. He realized that what he had feared, the anger of the community, the danger of being discovered, was tempered by the careful guidance of Ahiana. She was not only his guide but his protector. At the end of the night, they found a small, hidden spot near a rock formation where they could rest. Ahiana made a small fire, careful to keep it low. They ate simple food she had brought, and Ethan felt a strange sense of connection. Though they had only met that day, he felt as if he had entered a world that few outsiders ever saw. Before sleep overtook them, Ahiana turned to him and said, "Tomorrow, we will begin the process. You will learn what it means to follow the rules of my people. You will see that it is not punishment but protection. It will not be easy, but it will keep us both safe." Ethan nodded, exhausted but alert. He realized that his adventure had become far more than he had expected. He had come seeking knowledge, but he had found responsibility, trust, and a glimpse into a culture that demanded respect and courage. He knew that his life would never be the same after this encounter. As he drifted to sleep, the desert night wrapped around them. The wind whispered through the rocks, carrying stories of the past, stories that he was now a part of. And for the first time, Ethan felt the weight of history and honor pressing gently on his shoulders, not as a burden, but as a gift, a chance to witness, learn, and protect. The next morning, the desert was bathed in the soft glow of dawn. The air was cool, and the sky turned shades of pink and orange as the sun rose over the horizon. Ethan awoke slowly, feeling the stiffness of sleeping on rough rocks, but also a sense of anticipation. He was not in a typical hotel room or a familiar city street. He was somewhere ancient, somewhere alive with stories and traditions that had survived countless generations. And today, he would take the next step into understanding them. Ahiana was already awake, her movements quiet and purposeful as she prepared a small breakfast of dried fruits, corn, and water. She had a calm, confident energy that contrasted with Ethan's nervous excitement. "You slept well?" she asked softly, her voice carrying the warmth of someone who had spent years learning to navigate difficult situations with patience. Ethan nodded, trying to collect his thoughts. "Yes, though I keep thinking about yesterday, about everything I saw. I didn't mean to intrude, but I also didn't expect to witness something so important." Ahiana nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "You did not intrude in a harmful way," she said, "but you must understand that the eyes that see must also respect what they see. This is why there are rules, old rules that we follow. Yesterday was the first step, today is the second. You will learn how to move carefully and how to respect what is sacred." They ate in silence for a few moments, the only sounds the gentle rustling of the wind and the occasional call of a distant bird. Ethan's mind was busy. He was beginning to understand that the situation he was in was delicate. It was not just about him observing a culture. It was about trust, responsibility, and the consequences of every action. After breakfast, Ahiana led him through a narrow path in the canyon, stopping at a hidden entrance to a small cave. "We will meet the elders today," she said, her tone firm but encouraging. "They will explain the rules more fully. They will decide if you may stay safely and how we proceed. You must listen and you must show respect. Everything else will follow." Ethan followed her, feeling a mix of anxiety and curiosity. The cave opened into a larger space, dimly lit by natural sunlight filtering through cracks in the rock. Inside, a group of elders waited, their expressions serious but not hostile. Their eyes were sharp, scanning Ethan carefully, evaluating him with wisdom that could only come from years of experience. Ahiana stepped forward and introduced him. "This is Ethan," she said. "He is a visitor, but he has come with respect and care. He did not mean harm. He saw something sacred, and we bring him here to learn and to understand." The elders nodded slowly, exchanging quiet glances. One of them, an older man with silver hair and deep-set eyes, spoke. "You have seen our ceremony," he said to Ethan. "This is not something shared lightly. Outsiders who witness sacred moments often bring trouble, yet your guide believes you have respect. That is the first step. The second step is to learn." Ethan bowed his head slightly, feeling the weight of their words. "I understand," he said quietly. "I did not mean to cause trouble. I only want to learn and to honor what I saw." The elder's eyes softened just a little. "Then you must follow our customs," he said. "You must understand that knowledge comes with responsibility. You are bound now not by fear but by the duty to protect what you have witnessed. Your guide, Ahiana, will show you how. The rules are old, but they are strong. They keep our people safe, and they protect those who are invited to see." Ethan nodded again, realizing that this was more serious than anything he had imagined. He was not merely a visitor. He had entered a world with its own laws, expectations, and protections. He would have to tread carefully. Ahiana led him to the edge of the cave, where the sun's light spilled into the opening. "The first lesson," she said, "is about observation. You have seen the ceremony, but you must not speak of it to anyone outside. This is not gossip, it is protection. The second lesson is about presence. You must be aware of how you move, what you say and how you behave. Every action matters. For hours, they walked through the surrounding hills and canyons, Ethan listening carefully as Ahiana explained the deeper meaning of what he had witnessed. She taught him about the significance of the chants, the dances, and the placement of objects in the ceremony. She explained that every movement, every gesture, had meaning passed down through generations. It is not for spectacle, she said. It is for understanding, for connection, for remembrance. We honor those who came before us and those who will come after. Outsiders often miss the depth because they only see the surface. Ethan took careful notes, though he knew that the most important lessons could not be written down. He had to remember them in his heart, in his awareness, in his actions. He realized that respect was more than politeness. It was a form of understanding that required humility and patience. As the day wore on, Ahiana tested him gently. She asked questions about what he had observed, but not in a judgmental way. Instead, she guided him to notice the details, to understand not just the appearance of the ceremony, but the meaning behind it. Ethan began to see that the ceremony was not just a ritual. It was a language, a story told without words, a way to connect with both the past and the present. By midday, they reached a small stream where they rested. Ethan watched the water flow over smooth stones, reflecting the sun in tiny sparkles. Ahiana knelt beside him, pulling out some herbs she had collected. She explained how each plant had uses from medicine to ceremonial purposes, and how the knowledge of the land was tied to respect for nature. You see, she said, our traditions are not separate from the world around us. They are connected. If you understand this, you understand more than the ceremony itself. You understand the people, the land, and the life that flows through it. Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of awe. Everything he had learned in books suddenly felt small compared to the living experience of being here. He realized that knowledge without understanding was empty. To truly learn, he had to immerse himself, observe carefully, and respect every step of the way. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, they returned to the canyon where the ceremony had taken place. The shadows were long, and the desert took on a golden glow. Ethan noticed the small details he had missed before, the way the sand shifted underfoot, the sound of wind through the rocks, and the subtle patterns in the landscape that guided movement and action. Ahiana stopped and turned to him. Tomorrow, we will begin the ritual engagement, she said softly. It is not for love yet. It is for protection. But it will bind our actions and fates until you understand our world fully. You must be ready, not only with your mind, but with your heart. This is not about marriage as outsiders think of it. It is about responsibility and trust. Do you understand? Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of her words. I understand, he said. I will do what is needed. I want to learn and I want to respect your traditions. I want to honor what I have seen. Ahiana nodded, her expression both approving and cautious. Good. That is the first step. Tomorrow will be harder. You will meet more of our people, and you will see how seriously we take what you have witnessed. But if you remain respectful and patient, you will be safe, and our traditions will be protected. They settled near the rocks to rest for the night, the desert cooling around them. Ethan could feel the tension of the day slowly melting into a calm awareness. He was learning more than facts or observations. He was learning humility, patience, and the importance of listening with all his senses. As he closed his eyes, he reflected on the lessons of the day. The desert was not empty, it was alive. The people he had met were not distant figures from history. They were living, breathing keepers of wisdom. And Ahiana, with her quiet strength and deep knowledge, was guiding him into a world that few outsiders ever saw. For the first time, Ethan understood that his journey was not just about witnessing a ceremony or collecting notes. It was about understanding responsibility, honor, and the connections between people, land, and tradition. He had seen something extraordinary, yes, But now he had to learn how to live with that knowledge, to respect it, and to navigate the delicate balance between curiosity and duty. The night passed quietly, the wind carrying whispers of stories he would never forget. And as Ethan drifted into sleep, he knew that tomorrow would mark the beginning of a journey that would change him forever. Not just as a scholar or traveler, but as someone who had entered a world of profound wisdom and learned the meaning of true respect. The morning sun rose slowly over the desert, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and gold. Ethan awoke with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today was different. He could feel it in the air. The cool breeze seemed to carry whispers of the past, of ancestors watching and guiding those who honored the land and its people. He knew that this day would mark a turning point in his journey, a step deeper into the world he had glimpsed only briefly before. Ahiana was already awake, her movements calm and precise as she prepared a small breakfast. She offered Ethan some corn and water, but he could hardly eat, his mind racing with anticipation. "Are you ready?" she asked, her eyes serious but gentle. "Today, you will begin the ritual engagement. It is not a wedding in the way outsiders understand, but it is a bond that carries responsibility. You must take it seriously." Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. He felt the weight of her words. He had learned so much over the past 2 days, but this was different. This was not about observation or understanding from a distance. This was about participating, about stepping into a role that carried meaning and consequences. Ahiana led him through the canyon, the familiar rocks and paths now seeming different in the soft morning light. As they approached the place where the ceremony had taken place, Ethan noticed a few more members of the community gathered, dressed in traditional attire. They moved with purpose, their expressions serious. He could sense that this ritual was important and every detail mattered. The elders approached Ethan as he and Ahiana arrived. The older man with silver hair spoke first. "Ethan," he said, "you have observed and you have listened. Now you must understand what it means to honor what you have seen. This engagement is not about love, though that may come in time. It is about trust, respect, and responsibility. Are you ready to accept this?" Ethan felt his heart beat faster. He had expected challenges, but the gravity of the moment made him pause. "I am ready," he said, his voice steady despite the nervousness twisting in his stomach. "I will do what is required. I want to honor your traditions and protect what I have witnessed." Ahiana gave him a small nod of approval, her eyes reflecting both relief and seriousness. She stepped closer to Ethan and whispered, "Remember, this is about balance. Follow my guidance. Show respect in every gesture and word. Every action matters, and your sincerity will be tested." The elders guided them to a circle of stones, arranged carefully in a pattern that Ethan now understood held symbolic meaning. Each stone represented a principle: honor, honesty, protection, and the bond between people and land. As he stepped into the circle, Ethan felt the significance of each stone beneath his feet. Every step he took had weight. Ahiana and Ethan stood facing each other, the circle of stones surrounding them. One of the elders began speaking, chanting in the Apache language, a melody that was both haunting and beautiful. Ethan listened carefully, noticing the rise and fall of the words, the rhythm of the chant, and the way it seemed to connect everyone present. He felt as if the song itself carried the history of a people, their joys and sorrows, their victories and struggles. Ahiana reached out her hand, and Ethan took it, aware of the trust and responsibility implied in the gesture. The elder placed a small bundle of herbs and cloth before them, explaining that these items represented the bond they were forming. Ethan listened intently, understanding that these symbols were not mere decoration. They were the embodiment of values he had only begun to grasp. "You must vow to honor this bond," the elder said, "to protect what you have seen, to act with respect and responsibility. Your actions will reflect not only on yourself but also on the community. Do you accept?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I accept," he said firmly, feeling the seriousness of his words. He realized that this was not just about following rules. It was about carrying a trust that had been placed in him, a trust that could not be broken without consequences. Ahiana mirrored his words, her voice calm and resolute. "I accept," she said. Her eyes met his, conveying not only determination but also the weight of tradition. The moment was solemn, yet there was a quiet strength in it that made Ethan feel honored and grounded. The elder then instructed them to tie a small cord around their wrists, a symbolic gesture of connection and mutual responsibility. As Ethan felt the soft fibers against his skin, he understood that this was more than a physical act. It was a commitment, a promise to act with care and respect. Ahiana's hand was steady, guiding him through the ritual with precision and grace. As the ceremony continued, Ethan noticed subtle gestures and expressions among the other community members. Their eyes were watching, not with judgment but with assessment. Every movement, every word, every expression mattered. He realized that this engagement was not just about him and Ahiana. It was about trust, shared responsibility, and the balance between people and tradition. After the cord was tied, the elders gave Ethan a small token, a carved piece of wood representing the land and the connection between generations. "Keep this with you always," the elder said. "It is a reminder that what you have witnessed must be honored, protected, and respected. It is a symbol of trust and responsibility." Ethan held the token carefully, feeling its weight in his hand. It was small, yet it carried a significance he could almost feel in his heart. He understood that he had entered a world where actions mattered, where knowledge came with responsibility, and where trust was earned through respect and understanding. As the ritual concluded, Ahiana guided Ethan to a quiet spot near the edge of the canyon. "You did well," she said softly. "You followed the rules, you listened, and you showed respect. That is what matters most. But remember, this is only the beginning. There will be challenges, questions, and moments when you must choose carefully. The trust you have earned is precious. Do not take it lightly." Ethan nodded, feeling both pride and humility. He realized that this experience was teaching him more than any book or lecture ever could. He was learning the importance of responsibility, the meaning of trust, and the depth of human connection that transcends words. For hours, they walked through the surrounding hills, discussing the significance of the ritual and the values it represented. Ahiana explained the principles behind each action, teaching Ethan to observe not only the external movements, but also the intention behind them. He learned that every gesture, every word, and every choice carried meaning, and that understanding this required patience, attention, and humility. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert, Ethan felt a deep sense of connection, not only to Ahiana but also to the land and its people. He realized that the ritual engagement was not a restriction but a bridge, a way to enter a world that demanded respect and offered wisdom in return. Ahiana stopped near a small stream, the water reflecting the colors of the sky. She turned to him and said, "Tomorrow, you will meet more members of our community. You will see how the trust we have formed will be tested, not by danger but by understanding. You must continue to act with respect and awareness. Only then will you fully grasp the meaning of what you have witnessed and what you have accepted." Ethan listened carefully, feeling the weight of her words. He knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. There would be moments of uncertainty, challenges to his understanding, and tests of his patience and respect. But he also felt a sense of purpose, a quiet determination to honor the trust he had been given. As night fell, they returned to their resting place near the rocks. Ethan sat quietly, reflecting on the day's events. The ritual engagement had been more than a ceremony. It had been a lesson in responsibility, trust, and understanding. He realized that he had stepped into a world where every action mattered, where respect was not optional, and where knowledge was inseparable from duty. Ahiana prepared a small fire, and they sat together in the quiet of the desert night. The stars shone brightly overhead, and the wind carried the soft whispers of the canyon. Ethan felt a sense of peace, tempered by awareness. He knew that the days ahead would challenge him, but he also knew that he had the guidance of Ahiana and the trust of the community. Before sleep overtook him, Ethan turned to Ahiana and asked, "Do you think I will ever fully understand?" Ahiana smiled softly. "Understanding is not a destination," she said. "It is a journey. You will learn more each day, but even when you think you know, there will always be more to see, more to respect, more to honor. That is the nature of our world. And now you are part of it in a small but meaningful way." Ethan nodded, feeling a mix of humility and determination. He knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but he also knew that he had entered a world of profound wisdom, guided by a person who embodied the strength, knowledge, and grace of her people. As he closed his eyes, the desert night wrapped around him like a protective cloak, carrying the quiet promise of lessons yet to come, challenges yet to be faced, and understanding yet to be gained. And for the first time, Ethan realized that he had not only witnessed a culture, he had become a part of it, even in a small way. And that realization filled him with both awe and responsibility, a sense that would shape his journey in the days to come. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of wind whispering through the rocks. The desert was quieter than usual, but that calm seemed deceptive. Today, he sensed, would test not only his understanding of the culture, but also his ability to act responsibly under pressure. The ritual engagement had formalized a bond of trust, but trust was fragile, and the world outside their canyon was unpredictable. Ahiana was already awake, moving with her usual grace as she prepared a light breakfast. She handed Ethan some water and a few pieces of dried corn, her expression serious. "Today," she said softly, "you will meet more of the community. This will show you the deeper responsibilities of the bond you have formed. You must remain attentive, respectful, and patient. Others will watch you carefully." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He had spent the past days learning, observing, and participating in a world that was far removed from his own. But now, he understood that this was more than a learning experience. It was a test of character. He had to show that he could honor the trust placed in him and navigate the complexities of a culture that demanded understanding and awareness. They set out together, moving through narrow paths lined with rocks and sparse desert vegetation. The sun rose higher in the sky, casting long shadows that shifted with each step. As they approached a larger clearing, Ethan could see several members of the community waiting, including elders, women, and a few young people. Their expressions were measured, cautious, and curious. Ethan realized that he was being evaluated not just by Ahiana, but by the entire group. One of the elders stepped forward and addressed him directly. "Ethan," he said, "the bond you have formed with Ahiana is not only for protection. It carries responsibilities. You must demonstrate your understanding through your actions and decisions. Today, you will see the importance of patience, awareness, and respect for others." Ethan felt the weight of the elder's words. He nodded, keeping his gaze low in a sign of respect. "I understand," he said quietly. "I will do my best." Ahiana led him through the gathering, introducing him to the other members of the community. Ethan noticed that everyone watched him carefully, noting how he moved, how he spoke, and how he interacted with others. He realized that every action carried significance. Even a simple gesture could be interpreted in many ways. He had to remain calm, respectful, and attentive at all times. The day began with small tasks designed to test his patience and understanding. He helped with carrying water from a nearby stream, arranging small offerings for the elders, and observing the way people moved through the space, always mindful of their traditions. At first, these tasks seemed simple, but Ethan soon understood that they were designed to teach more than manual skills. They were teaching observation, respect, and awareness. During a break, Ethan and Ahiana walked to a quiet spot near a small rock formation. Ethan asked, "Why do they watch me so closely? I understand the rules, but it feels like every move I make is being judged." Ahiana smiled faintly. "It is not judgment," she explained. "It is observation. Trust is earned not through words alone, but through actions. You have accepted the bond, but now you must show that you can uphold it. The community is watching to see if your respect is sincere, if your patience is genuine, and if your understanding is deep. That is all." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of responsibility settle over him. He realized that the trust he had earned was not permanent. Every day, every choice, every word mattered. He had entered a world where honor and integrity were more than ideals. They were necessary for survival and harmony. As the day continued, small challenges began to appear. A young boy accidentally dropped a tool near Ethan, and instinctively Ethan bent down to pick it up. Ahiana placed a hand on his arm and whispered, "Wait, observe first." Ethan paused, realizing that even a simple act of kindness needed awareness. He watched carefully as the boy retrieved the tool himself, learning not only patience but also the importance of letting others maintain their autonomy and dignity. Later, a stranger from the nearby town approached the edge of the community, curious about the gathering. Ethan noticed the man peering from a distance, and he felt a surge of concern. If the stranger saw anything he was not meant to, it could cause misunderstandings. He turned to Ahiana, who nodded, understanding his worry. "Do not act hastily," she said. "We will manage this carefully. You must trust our knowledge and guidance." Ahiana led Ethan through a series of careful steps, using subtle movements and signals to redirect the stranger without confrontation. Ethan observed, learning the skill of managing delicate situations with calmness and tact. He realized that true respect and responsibility often meant acting with restraint, patience, and awareness rather than force or speed. As the afternoon sun began to lower, Ethan felt both exhaustion and exhilaration. The day had tested him in ways he had not anticipated. He had learned patience, careful observation, and the importance of understanding the needs and perspectives of others. He had also begun to feel a deeper connection with Ahiana, not romantic, but rooted in trust, respect, and shared experience. During a quiet moment, Ahiana took Ethan to a small plateau overlooking the canyon. The wind blew softly, carrying the scent of sage and earth. "You have done well today," she said. "You are learning more than you realize. The challenges you faced were small, but they reveal your ability to act responsibly, to observe carefully, and to maintain respect. These are the qualities that matter most in the bond you have formed." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I still feel like I have so much to learn," he admitted. "Every moment here is a lesson, and I want to understand it all." Ahiana smiled, her eyes reflecting the sunlight. "Understanding takes time," she said. "You cannot rush it. The bond we share is not a chain but a path. Every day you walk it with care, you learn more, not just about the ceremony or the traditions, but about the people, the land, and yourself. That is the essence of our way." As they returned to the community's resting area, Ethan noticed a subtle change in how the others interacted with him. There was a sense of acceptance, a quiet acknowledgement of his efforts and sincerity. He realized that respect was not given automatically. It was earned through actions, patience, and understanding. That evening, as the sun disappeared behind the distant hills, a small problem arose. A minor misunderstanding between two community members threatened to escalate. Ethan felt an instinct to intervene, but he remembered Ahiana's words about observation and patience. He watched carefully, noticing the subtle gestures and expressions that indicated the root of the problem. Following her guidance, He waited and then helped mediate by encouraging respectful dialogue and understanding. The situation resolved without conflict, and Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction. He realized that sometimes the greatest strength lay in careful attention and thoughtful action rather than immediate reaction. After the resolution, Ahiana led Ethan to a quiet spot near the fire they had kept for the night. She looked at him seriously. "Today was important," she said. "You were tested not by danger but by understanding. You have shown patience, respect, and awareness. These qualities are the foundation of the bond we share and the trust you have earned. But remember, challenges will continue. Your actions will always matter. You must be careful, thoughtful, and sincere in everything you do." Ethan nodded, feeling both the weight and the honor of her words. He had come seeking knowledge, but he was learning far more about responsibility, humility, and the importance of trust in relationships. He realized that the desert, the canyon, and the people were teaching him lessons that no book or lecture ever could. As night fell, the community gathered around the fire. The stars above shone brightly, and the wind carried the soft songs of the canyon. Ethan sat quietly, reflecting on the events of the day. He had faced challenges, navigated delicate situations, and learned the meaning of patience, observation, and respect. He felt a deepening connection to the people around him and to the land itself. Ahiana sat beside him, her presence calm and reassuring. "You are learning," she said softly. "The bond we share is not just a ritual, it is a guide. It will teach you to see, to listen, and to act with care. The days ahead will continue to test you, but you are ready. You have shown that you can uphold the trust that was given to you." Ethan looked at her, feeling a mixture of gratitude and awe. He realized that his journey was no longer just about witnessing a culture. It was about becoming a part of it, even in a small way. Every action, every word, every decision mattered. And he understood that this understanding was both a gift and a responsibility, one that he would carry with him forever. As he lay down to rest under the vast expanse of the desert sky, Ethan felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. The day had been challenging, yet rewarding. He had learned that trust was earned through respect, patience, and careful action. He had seen that true understanding required more than observation. It required empathy, awareness, and the willingness to act responsibly. And as the fire crackled softly beside him, he realized that the bond he shared with Ahiana was more than a ritual. It was a living lesson, a guide for the days to come, and a reminder that respect, trust, and responsibility were the foundations of any meaningful connection, whether with people, culture, or land. The next morning, the desert was quiet, bathed in soft light that stretched across the canyon. Ethan awoke with a mixture of anticipation and reflection. Over the past few days, he had experienced something that few outsiders ever would: a living culture, ancient traditions, and the delicate trust of a community. Today would mark the final stage of his journey with Ahiana, and he felt both excitement and a sense of gravity. Ahiana was already awake as always. Her movements were calm, deliberate, and full of purpose. She prepared a simple breakfast, offering Ethan water and dried corn. "Today," she said softly, "you will complete the final steps of understanding. The bond we share has been tested, and you have shown respect, patience, and responsibility. But now you will see the full importance of what you have learned, and you will leave with knowledge, understanding, and honor." Ethan nodded, feeling both nervous and honored. He realized that this experience was more than an adventure or a study. It had become a lesson in life, culture, and humanity. Every word, every gesture, every choice over the past days had shaped him into someone who could see beyond himself, beyond his own expectations, and into the heart of another world. Ahiana led him through the familiar paths of the canyon, the rocks and desert plants now seeming alive with meaning. Each step felt deliberate, as if the land itself were guiding them. As they approached the community, Ethan noticed a sense of ceremony in the air. The elders were waiting, along with other members who had been cautious observers throughout his stay. Their faces were calm but filled with quiet expectation, and Ethan felt the weight of their watchful eyes. One of the elders stepped forward, his silver hair glowing softly in the morning light. "Ethan," he said, "you have walked the path with care and respect. You have observed, participated, and shown patience. You have proven that your understanding is genuine, and your actions have honored the bond you formed. Today, you will see that this knowledge and trust carry consequences beyond yourself." Ethan felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had learned so much, yet he knew there was still more to understand. "I will do my best," he said quietly, his eyes meeting the elder's with sincerity. "I want to honor what I have witnessed and carry it with respect." Ahiana guided him to the circle of stones where the initial ritual had taken place. The pattern of the stones, the symbols they represented, and the sacred space itself now seemed more alive, as if the canyon were holding its breath. The elders began to speak, their voices calm but resonant. They explained that the bond Ethan had formed was not only a matter of personal responsibility, but also a connection to the land, the community, and the traditions that had survived for generations. "You have seen what few outsiders ever see," the elder said. "That is both a gift and a duty. You must carry this knowledge with care. You must protect it, honor it, and remember it always. Your actions reflect not only on yourself, but also on those who trusted you, and on the land that nurtures us all." Ethan listened carefully, absorbing every word. He realized that the bond he shared with Ahiana and the community was more than a symbolic ritual. It was a commitment to understanding, respect, and protection. He felt the weight of this responsibility, but he also felt a sense of purpose and clarity. The elders then asked him to participate in one final act of the ritual. Ethan was to walk slowly around the circle, touching each stone and reflecting on the meaning behind it. As he moved, he thought about the lessons he had learned, the importance of observation, patience, respect, and trust. He remembered the small tests, the dropped tool, the cautious interactions, the subtle challenges from outsiders, and understood how each moment had prepared him for this day. When he completed the circle, he returned to Ahiana, who stood quietly beside the elder. She placed her hand lightly on his shoulder, a gesture of reassurance and acknowledgement. "You have learned much," she said softly, "but remember, this is only the beginning. Knowledge is a journey, not a destination. The bond we share will guide you, but the lessons you carry must continue to grow within you." Ethan nodded, feeling the depth of her words. He realized that understanding a culture was never about simply observing or recording. It was about participating, respecting, and living the values of those who trusted him. He felt gratitude for Ahiana's guidance, patience, and wisdom, which had allowed him to navigate a world that was both beautiful and complex. As the day progressed, the community allowed Ethan to engage in more activities, each designed to deepen his understanding and connection. He helped with small tasks, listened to stories from elders, and observed the daily routines that held meaning beyond the surface. Every moment reinforced the lessons he had learned: respect for tradition, the importance of trust, and the delicate balance between curiosity and responsibility. Ahiana remained by his side throughout, guiding him with subtle gestures and quiet words. She explained that while the bond they shared had formalized their connection, it was the respect, patience, and awareness he had shown that truly mattered. Ethan felt a profound sense of admiration for her, not as a romantic partner, but as a teacher, guide, and embodiment of the values he had come to understand. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the canyon, Ethan and Ahiana stood together on a plateau overlooking the community. The wind carried the scent of sage and earth, and the sky was painted with colors that seemed almost unreal in their beauty. Ethan felt a deep sense of connection, not only to Ahiana and the people he had met, but to the land itself, to the history, and to the traditions that had shaped generations. "You have grown in understanding," Ahiana said, her voice calm but filled with meaning. "You have shown respect, patience, and awareness. You have honored the bond, and in doing so, you have honored yourself and our people. Remember this wherever you go." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. He realized that the lessons he had learned were not temporary. They would stay with him for the rest of his life. He had witnessed something extraordinary, participated in a living tradition, and been trusted by a community that few outsiders would ever know. Before he left the canyon, the elders gave him a small token, carved from wood and etched with symbols of the land and the bond he had formed. "Take this," the elder said. "It is a reminder of what you have witnessed, what you have learned, and the responsibilities you carry. Keep it with you always and remember the lessons it represents." Ethan held the token carefully, feeling its weight in his hand. It was small, but it carried immense significance. He understood that it was more than a gift. It was a symbol of trust, respect, and the enduring connection between him, Ahiana, and the community. As he walked back along the familiar paths of the canyon, he reflected on his journey. He had come seeking knowledge, but he had found much more: responsibility, humility, respect, and a deeper understanding of the world beyond himself. He realized that true learning required patience, careful observation, and a willingness to participate with integrity. Ahiana walked beside him, her presence calm and reassuring. "You have done well," she said softly. "Remember, this is only the beginning. The lessons you have learned will guide you in ways you cannot yet see. Keep them close and honor them always." Ethan nodded, feeling the truth of her words. He knew that he had been changed by this experience. The desert, the canyon, and the community had taught him lessons that no book or lecture ever could. He had learned the value of trust, the meaning of respect, and the importance of carrying knowledge with responsibility. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Ethan prepared to leave the canyon. He turned to Ahiana one last time, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything, for guiding me, teaching me, and trusting me." Ahiana smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the light of the stars. "Go with care," she said. "Carry what you have learned and remember the bond we share. Respect, responsibility, and understanding will guide you if you honor them." Ethan took a final look at the canyon, at the land, and at the people who had welcomed him with caution and trust. He felt a sense of peace, knowing that he had been given a rare and precious gift, the chance to witness, participate, and learn from a world that was both ancient and alive. As he walked away, the desert wind carried the soft whispers of the canyon. Ethan knew that his journey had changed him forever. He had not only witnessed a culture, but he had become a part of it, even in a small way. The lessons, the trust, and the bond he had formed would remain with him always, guiding his actions, his thoughts, and his understanding of the world. And as the night embraced the desert, Ethan felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. He had come seeking knowledge, but he was leaving with wisdom, responsibility, and a connection that transcended words. The canyon, the community, and Ahiana had shown him that true understanding was not only about seeing. It was about respecting, honoring, and carrying forward what had been shared. For the first time, Ethan understood fully that the journey was not about returning to the world he had left behind, but about carrying the lessons of this place with him, forever changing the way he would see, act, and understand everything around him. And that realization filled him with both awe and gratitude, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of a life, forever guided by the values he had learned in the desert.